Hello, lovely Pisces. You may be the last sign in the zodiac, but you are not the least. I have your wonderful forecast right here. As you can see, let me get over here and show it to you. As you can see, and I'm going to describe it to you in just a second, you can see that the area of fun and games and work and health, those two areas are very strongly triggered. And before I go into detail, because I know that you're interested, a lot of you know that Mercury is retrograde this month, and we have two eclipses. Oh my goodness. So I'll explain what everything means. First, those of you who have taken advantage of my free gift of an actual copy of your birth chart. It's not an interpretation, it's the actual chart itself. Some of you have knowledge of astrology and you're loving looking at your chart. Others of you are looking at it and saying, okay, now what? Well, I have suggested to you that you get a copy of my book, and I'm going to suggest it now. This is what it looks like. Now that I've cast it, what do I do with it? It's available on Amazon.com. I wrote this book back before we had computers, and I've updated it since. But we used to cast the chart by hand, and I would teach my astrology students how to do that. It weeded out the sincere from the insincere, so to speak, because it wasn't easy. And after they had cast their chart and everything was looking good, they'd say, now what? Now that I've cast it, what do I do with it? And so I wrote a book that speaks to the heart of where you are. The best book in the world is your brain, your mind. And I've given simplified, very simplified instructions on how to interpret any chart at all. You can start with your own, you can start with anybody else's, so that you are able to actually interpret a horoscope using your common sense and the basic sentences that I give you that jog the mind and give you the instructions on how to go about actually using your brain to interpret the chart. I think this is why it has sold so well. All right, now, the other thing I want to mention, have you taken advantage of my summer eclipse special? As you know, our world is going nuts, and it's going to keep on. The end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel, will be after the presidential elections in the United States in 2020. There's so much going on just before then and during then, and it's going to be confusing. And this group is going to say this, and that group is going to say that, and people are going to be confused. With your own forecast, you have your own roadmap. The special that I'm offering will only be available in July. It goes from July till the first eclipse in 2020 and covers 4 eclipses, 2 retrograde Mercury stations, and 6 full moons, along with the usual aspects, the usual planetary aspects. My suggestion is that you take advantage of it while it's available in order to help steer your own ship during the month of July and thereafter, when we have Mercury retrograde and 2 eclipses. The last thing, my full moon ceremony is on the lunar eclipse, July 16th. If you're here in Atlanta, please join me. It's free of charge at the Phoenix and Dragon bookstore in Sandy Springs. We start at 7 o'clock in the evening, Eastern Daylight Time. And if you don't live in Atlanta, if you don't live in the United States, it doesn't matter. Convert your time zone to Eastern Daylight Time and join us at your equivalent to 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It is always an uplifting, beautiful, life-transforming ceremony. I usually get about 40 to 45 people at the ceremonies. However, this is an eclipse, and I usually get twice as many at an eclipse. I'll be busy. The ceremony lasts about an hour. Join us if you possibly can. And if you're coming in person, come early so you get a parking place. Okay, let's talk about your beautiful chart. Now, I've talked about retrograde Mercury, but you may or may not know what that means. So for those of you who know, fast forward. For those of you who don't, stay with me and I'm going to explain it to you. Mercury is the planet of communication, correspondence, and transportation. It rules our mouth and our minds. Okay? 3 times a year, and this month, July, is one of them, Mercury goes retrograde. And that means it appears to be moving backwards in the heavens. It is not moving backwards, but it feels like it is. It seems like it is, because everything is confused, particularly where anything involving writing or speaking or communicating, traveling is concerned. If you have not watched my YouTube video, Mercury Retrograde, the prequel and the sequel, you might want to watch it because I'm explaining on that video the shadow of the retrograde Mercury. So many of you feel the retrograde Mercury a week or two before it actually occurs, and you're very sensitive. Of course you're going to feel it. The reason you're feeling it is because we're in the shadow of the retrograde Mercury, and a lot of people don't realize that that's what's going on. So if you are one of those empathic people who feels it all the time, and you've told this to people and they've told you were crazy, you are not crazy. You're feeling the shadow of the retrograde. So, all right. In your chart for July, Mercury starts off in your 6th house of work, health, and service. So your health may be disturbed. Your job can be disturbed. There might be changes going on at work that affect your health. And you're confused. I don't know what to do, is always the Mercury retrograde cry. Well, don't do anything. In fact, don't start any new projects on a retrograde Mercury, because anything begun on a retrograde Mercury either fizzles out completely or has to be redone within the coming year. You don't need that, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to tie up the loose ends of unfinished projects. And then after Mercury goes direct, meaning it comes out of retrograde, you can begin new projects. Okay, so Mercury starts in your 6th house of work, health, and service. Pisces, you love to be needed, of course. 6th house people and 12th house people, of which you are one, always do. Mercury goes into your 5th house of children and fun and games on the 18th. And on the 31st, it goes direct in that 5th house of fun and games, social life, and children. Now, because we've got 2 more weeks of the shadow, the sequel, things may still be unsettled, but not like they were when Mercury was in literal retrograde. Okay. So after Mercury goes direct on the 31st, Mercury will move forward and reclaim its place in your 6th house of work, health, and service. Now, let's look at the sun, the yellow planet right here. That's the center of our life. And so the center of your life starts off in the area of fun and games and children. So if you're single, party. If you've got kids, they're going to want equal time with your social life. You're going to want to put your attention on them because they want your attention on them. It's that simple. So throw parties, attend parties, And remember, Mercury's retrograde, so make sure everybody got the invitation and the address and all that good stuff. On the 22nd, the sun enters your sixth house of work. And your health picks up, your work picks up, and it's almost as if you get a new start when the sun enters a new house, because it's entering a new arena. Let's look at Venus. Venus is love and money and beauty. It's been in your fourth house of home and family for a couple of weeks, and you've enjoyed being at home with or without family, perhaps decorating, beautifying the house. On the 3rd, it moves into your fifth house, and it is time for fun. I keep saying it because you got Venus, the sun, and ultimately Mercury in that fifth house, which is really cool. Okay. Then on the 27th, Venus enters your sixth house and blesses it with love and beauty. It blesses your health. It helps you enjoy your work, even though Mercury is retrograde. See, if you know it's retrograde, you can accept it. May not like it, but you can accept it. Now, Mars, the red planet, is in your sixth house of work, health, and service. And when Mars is in a particular house, it fights with and for what that house represents. This is the area of work and health and service. Mars can be inflammation. And so if it's in your sixth house, avoid stress if you possibly can. However, Mars in the sixth says you throw yourself into your work. You throw yourself into your health. Get thee to a gym, my old mantra from years ago. So, Mars wants to be busy, wants to be needed, wants to get to the gym. So absolutely keep that in mind. Now, the eclipses. The first eclipse is July 2nd. It is in 10.5 degrees of Cancer, 10 Cancer 38. Find 10 Cancer 38 in your birth chart. This is a new moon. Solar eclipse occurs on a new moon. And so, that social life picks up. The activity with the kids really picks up. We feel the effects of an eclipse strongest 3 to 4 months after it occurs. So with Mercury being confused, retrograde, don't you worry. The effects of an eclipse last till at least the next pair come along, which are usually about 5-6 months later. And they're at their peak 3 to 4 months afterwards. Okay, that's the first eclipse. Yay! So you're starting to have fun. The full moon on the 16th is in 24 of Capricorn. This is the full moon. It's a lunar eclipse. This deals with friends. Fifth house can be romance. 11th house, friends. Fifth house is fun and social life. 11th house is humanitarian groups and activities with groups of people. And so this eclipse gets you away from the personal social aspect of life and triggers your humanitarian side. How beautiful is that? I just love it. And then there's a new moon on July 31st. What else occurs on July 31st? Mercury goes direct. And so the new moon is a whole new start. It's in your sixth house of work, health, and service. Mercury, of course, when it goes direct, gets the help from the new moon that says, let's get started. We've been retrograde so long. Let's do something. And so that wonderful new moon is in 8.5 of Leo. Find that in your birth chart, and that is where things start picking up. So that's the way your forecast looks for July. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you'll join me next month when once again I give you your forecast. So till we talk next time, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours.